All right, so what's the purpose of this one?
Today is June 2nd.
Yeah, 2020.
Yes, 6/2/20. We are now in our second trimester, but we're here to talk about recapping of the first trimester, celebrating being in the second trimester, but taking a look back at what happened in the first trimester, all the things that we learned that we really didn't know about or didn't expect or were really like interesting for us to learn about. Do you want to start with anything?
Our midwife told us that the changes that your body's going through and growing the baby is like your body is putting out as much energy as if you were climbing a mountain.
That was a nice thing to be told, because I have heard about people being exhausted in the first trimester, but I've really more heard people being sick in the first trimester. I hadn't heard a ton about people's energy levels being super low and needing a lot of rest and just being tired. I haven't heard about that as much as I heard about being sick. And I was so exhausted, and I really wasn't doing my normal life because of COVID. It's not like I was running about my normal schedule. So I was trying to imagine, holy hell, like so many people, usually nothing in their life changes. And if anything, they don't want anything to change because they don't want people to know yet. And that must be so hard to deal with. But I didn't even have to deal with any of that because I never saw anyone. I never left the house. But I was feeling guilty about my energy levels and about not wanting to do anything and just wanting to sleep all the time. So that was definitely really nice to hear how much energy my body was exuding without me running or walking or even doing what I normally do. That did feel really nice to hear.
Yeah. And it took you a while to stop judging yourself about that but you have, and you did a while back, really accept that as being the case, and then allowing yourself to relax and sleep in, which luckily right now is a perfect time to do that with all the quarantine and everything happening. So obviously this isn't an example of normal real life, but yeah, it was great to see you sort of embrace that and just allow your body to tell you what it wants and needs.
Yeah. As terrible as so many things are that have been going on, I feel so lucky that this is happening at this time, because it's been giving me the opportunity to practice that break and to practice that, like, just giving full attention to baby, which we call Cub. I know I've told you guys before, but giving full attention to Cub and being like, letting my body do everything it needs to do just to do that. Speaking of energy for baby, food, pooping. I poop so much. Like, I usually poop at least 3 times a day.
Oh,
and so when our midwife is like, how are your poops? I'm like, they're not as constant as they usually are.
Not as frequent?
Not as frequent. And I actually wasn't paying attention to that a ton, surprisingly, because I'm usually like, oh, I gotta poop. And I've been pooping twice a day, but like they just don't seem as... They just aren't as much. And she told us that the body actually...
And they're drier too, right?
They have felt more dry, yeah. But I've been drinking a lot of water for sure. That I had difficulties in the past with runny poops, and that was something that I was always working on with our doctor. But they're definitely not really runny anymore, and they're just different. The whole experience of pooping is different, but I've also been kind of using the experience of pooping to be like, okay, this is what, something's coming out of my body, and I'm going to practice this as like,
oh boy,
I'm going to relax and just like not push and stress, but like just having this like mental on our squatty potty, like prepping for birth breathing while I'm pooping.
Squatty potty is good.
Squatty potty is good. Our midwife is like, you guys have a squatty potty? I'm like, yes.
Hashtag not sponsored.
But she was like, no, your body holds on to food differently because it's trying to get as much nutrients out of it for the baby as possible. So a lot of, you're going to poop less.
Yeah, it's like everything that your immune system and your body, like digestive system, is meant to do goes on hyperdrive when you're pregnant.
It's just not something I thought about. Like, oh, I'm going to poop less because my body's going to retain more of the nutrients.
And a lot of women have constipation issues.
Yeah, so fiber's like been a big conversation. Are you going to have fiber? The food thing has been really hard for me because there's a massive emphasis on protein. Massive emphasis on protein. And I know that so many people have different views about how they get their protein.
And when you're saying that, everyone that we've been speaking to has recommended increasing your protein
Increasing my protein
by
intake.
a lot.
By a lot. And that has been the most difficult thing for me to do. Meal prepping is like game changer, and it's been frustrating for me because meal prepping is something I always used to do, and now I'm like fussy McFusserson, like don't want to meal prep, but then every day I'm annoyed that I don't have protein available for me, and then I get frustrated with myself, and it's a whole cycle. So meal prepping is something we're going to start doing more of, but that, like, I have to eat every 2 to 3 hours. I need more protein. Like, that is something my doctor keeps, and I've had in my past, and present, like, I have the tendency to be hypoglycemic, so eating consistently is just important for me anyway. Like sugars.
Hypoglycemic means your blood sugar is usually lower. So eating more frequently is important so that it doesn't like go too low, and then if you don't do that, then it spikes during meals, and then you can have a lot of energy differences, which isn't great.
Yeah, and I've realized that, and then they have also told us that will help promote nausea in the first trimester. If you're not eating as much, that could be a reason. Like, then you start feeling sick, and then you don't want to eat, and then it gets spiraling in, and like eating more frequently is so helpful to prevent the nausea for a lot of people. And so thankfully I never got sick in the first trimester, but that was something I kept bringing up, like, I'm not really feeling like I want to eat, but I really do need to eat more often because that is going to make me feel better. And it did always make me feel better, even though I never wanted to eat like vegetables and raw veggies, and that was something I heard a ton of people say was normal. Like, I never wanted to eat a salad. And
you were definitely judging yourself about that too, because you were so confident before you got pregnant that you were going to be on your business, like eating perfectly, doing exactly what you should be, because it's been so easy for you the last 6 years or so.
Yeah, I feel like I've been prepping on how to change my relationship with food so that
it was like all she wanted was rice and starchy stuff.
But that's okay. That's okay, because we still found ways. He was making me soups. Like, we still found ways to incorporate the vegetables, because also all of their doctors were like, it's so important for you to have leafy greens. It's so important. I was like, and of course I know that. I've been practicing that for years.
Yeah.
So I was like, help me make soups. He's like the soup king in the house, so he was making blended soups, which was easier for me to eat the vegetables.
Blend those veggies in there.
Yeah, it's like such a great way to just put a
tell.
ton of vegetables in a soup, Vitamix, blend it to pure, like, smooth perfection. You don't even have textures. But like, honestly, if I look back at the first trimester, my boobs are like the biggest concern. Like, they still are. They're huge. They grew faster than I thought. I've never also heard people talk about, like, your boobs grow right away. And of course, this is going to be different for everyone. And I already had 37. I already had 34C sized boobs. But for those who don't know me in the past, I used to be a D when I was younger. Like, when I was 15, I was a D cup. And then when I changed my lifestyle, my boobs shrank. And my parents are still like, how did your boobs shrink? I don't get it. Like, your boobs now are kind of similar to what they were when you were younger. And I'm like, no, actually, they feel like they're twice as big as they were when I was younger.
Huge.
But I had, like, when my body changed 9 years ago, when I changed my lifestyle, I thought about this moment. I was like, when I get pregnant, my boobs are gonna get big again, so I need to keep these bras. So I kept my 34D bras for the last 8 years, haven't touched them, and I pulled them out in my first trimester, and I outgrew them in weeks, and I'm still wearing them, and I'm bulging out on all sides. Like, I have 6 boobs now. I have like 1 here, 2 here, 2 here, and like 2 here. I haven't gotten new bras, but like, that's something I would recommend. Like, get your bras ready. Like, the boobs might move fast.
Get your bras ready.
Get your upsized bras ready. And I've been researching companies, because like, my sister sent me hers, but I'm like such a stickler with which companies I want to work with, and the materials, and how they like manufacture. And so it's hard. Like, now I'm on a mission to find like all the new baby companies, or bra companies, or maternity companies that are in alignment with all the things I was researching before with products. But the boobs growing was like such a thing. such a thing, and they still are. And I reread something
And
yesterday
they're
that
sensitive
said like
for you.
the nipples
and
are
they
so
hurt.
sensitive. They
Like just
hurt.
pulling down because they're so heavy hurts, right?
Yes, like I'll be wearing a bra all day and I'll take off my bra and I'm like, and it just like
Even like standing in the shower it's
with
too
the water
sensitive.
on them, I'm like, But for us, it's been fun together as a couple.
Yeah, it's like you got cosmetic surgery.
It feels, I'm like, does it feel like you're with a new woman? Does it feel like you're like with a different woman? Like
It
you're
does a
having
little
an
bit.
affair?
It's fun.
It is fun, and I'm grateful that I still have like sexual desires, and that he.
So am I.
Yeah, like, well, but even both ways. Like I've read stuff about like both parties being not interested, and you know, everybody has a different process that they go through with this. So I'm just so grateful that I'm still like really sexually excited, and I haven't felt the desire, or I haven't felt like what's the word, like
I don't know.
I haven't felt like I wanted to hide. Like I've still felt very I've desired you. I've wanted you to desire me. Like that's been fun for us because it's also like, this is so new, like explore my body. And also it feels differently. So it's also navigating how that feels and being like, oh, it's okay, my body's changing. But also when we talk to our doctor about it, like I've heard people be worried about having sex with the baby, and she's like, the baby is so well protected. The baby is so well protected.
Yeah, it's not close.
There's no way you can hurt it. And also she was like, the energy, the I don't know if the dopamines are the right word, but it's just like the sensors that get sent is like joyful.
Yeah, it's joyful hormones that get released.
Yeah. And so that makes me happy, you know, like to know that is
I'm
happening.
also glad that I'm not weirded out by that. I don't know. I feel like if this conversation were to come up a couple years ago, I probably would have said I might be the guy to get weirded out by that.
Yeah.
But I haven't been, which has been nice.
And that's okay. I'm just grateful for us
yeah.
to be like having this conversation and being open to it. And I mean, I was irritable. I felt very numb, and I think I've already shared this with you guys before, so I don't want to spend too much time on it, but it was a big thing for me to like step into the second trimester and how different I felt. Like in our engagement, you could feel it.
Oh,
like
yeah.
I was willing to laugh more. I was willing to play more. I was willing to respond more. Like sometimes there would just be one word responses, or just I felt sedated.
I mean, it was kind of like you had like you were sick. You know, that's how I am when I'm sick. Like I don't want to have fun. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to like chatty. I don't want to be chatty. That's what it was like. It was, you know, it was like you were under the weather, sort of.
But it was so weird because I didn't really feel that under the weather the most of the time. So I felt like I was battling myself. Like, I'm like, what's your deal? Like, this is so great. And I didn't feel like I could outwardly celebrate it. Also, because we weren't telling people. And we took our time to tell people. Like, we did not rush into that at all.
Well, you took our time.
Yeah. I wanted to take time.
I was ready to scream it from the mountaintops. But.
Yeah, I wanted to take time, but now we're talking about it, and now I'm in the second trimester, and it's really, really different. I'm trying to think if there's anything else in the first trimester that was like game-changing news that we learned. Oh, tests. There's so many tests that can be done and that can be recommended for the first trimester, which is something I had never thought of before. There's tests now to see if there's like gene mutations going on, and we had a test done that came back that I had the MTHFR SNP in my genetics, which of course was like a scare. What is this? I don't know. And then come to find out, like, so many people have the MTHFR, what they call it, like the motherfucker, the MTHFR genetic SNP, and that it's okay, it's manageable, but it is better to know than to not know. So I am happy we took the test, because it was like, you know, our midwife is all about consent and just like, these are the options, do what you will. It wasn't forced upon us. But when I did that, what was important was to talk to my doctor, and she broke down what that meant for me. Because as I was reading online, I just got more, I didn't want to inundate myself with tons of like Wikipedia information that made me scared about it. So I was so fortunate enough that our doctor was familiar with this. Right. She was saying that was all about how your body methylates. And she's like, I've been watching your numbers and they've been great for 5 years. So like a lot of people that have that genetic SNP, their body body might not methylate well, and that can create some issues. So she said, but regardless, like I had already had you on supplements to support that, because she said, I already knew so many women already have this. And so I always think about making sure I'm giving the right supplements to make sure that they're methylating properly. But then she did adjust my supplement protocol. And even when our doctor told us, like, this is the results that came back, I don't know if your doctor's familiar with this, but here's a specialist that can help you navigate this so that you really understand and not to be afraid of it. So I'm just grateful that I learned that that was happening, so I could take initiative to take my supplements and learn about how my body was managing it. And that I also was offered resources of how to deal with that. So I was really grateful, because I think, you know, that could have been a big stressor.
Yeah. Yeah, I so often am thankful that we have our holistic practitioner to help us to not go crazy. It's so easy to go crazy, like, because we first started like looking things up online about the MTHFR. And you know, just like anything else you look up online when it comes to medical stuff, it can really take you down a negative rabbit hole, and it did that for us. But then, you know, we decided to stop doing that and wait to talk to her, and we're very thankful that we did.
Like such a breath of fresh air just to have that communication from someone who's practiced that and has worked with tons of people already, instead of learning all the information online. And I've actually steered away from learning a lot of stuff online in this process, and actually gravitated more to personal resources of people and friends, and getting some books that I want to read. I've learned about like my pelvic floor and how I can relax that. Since I'm a dancer, I've been tightening it my whole life, and I actually need to let it breathe, and like working on how I can do certain,
which is usually the opposite for most people.
Some people, you know, but like I've been doing exercises, how to relax that, but keep it controlled at the same time. It's just been great to have accessible resources to people who are very skilled, that believe in the way we believe. Because I think that's what's really important. Everybody's going to have a different set of beliefs, and to make sure that you understand what the different beliefs are that are out there, and find your group of people and resources that are in alignment with your belief system. Because sometimes I'll pull up a pregnancy blogger website or like a doctor website, and it recommends XYZ, and I'm like, I don't want none of that. Like, that's not in alignment with anything I want to do. So I think it's super important to find those resources that are in alignment with the things you believe and the way you want to process and have the journey of the pregnancy. Yeah. You have to go do something else.
I do have a meeting. This is great.
So busy. I love you, babe. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to say. We also found an app called The Bump, which I'm sure isn't like, it's not like super involved or intricate. It's just a playful little thing that we do together every week.
Website's better.
Website that we use, and we get to read up on how the baby is growing week by week. And that was really something, we still do it, but in the first trimester, that was a really fun way for us to connect. He has the membership, he would read about it, pull it up, and be like, okay, so, you know, the baby is now growing fingernails and toenails, and oh, the baby is now growing bones in its ears, and it can recognize your voice. And that was really exciting for us to learn about together, because it just blew my mind to know time and time again how quickly the baby was being built, and what parts of the baby were already developed at such a small, tiny little age. And it would give us little size updates, like it's now the size of an orange or whatever like that. And that's just been so fun. So we're going to continue to do that throughout the pregnancy, but for the first trimester, to really dive in and get those like excitements and sizes and visuals were really, really, really awesome, and can help us feel like we're connected to the baby. Because I'm like, wow, now it's like this big. And now you have fingernails, and to have an understanding of what the baby's going through at this exact moment was really imperative for us to be connected and find a bond with Cub in the first trimester. But it's still something we're going to continue to do throughout the whole pregnancy. It just feels like it keeps getting better. Everybody's been like, I'm so happy that you're in the second trimester. It feels like this is like, she's like, this is like the party time of the pregnancy. My sister said that. So I'm excited to be in the middle, in the second. And yeah, it's just, wow. Pregnancy is just, wow. That's a lot to say.